Made in England, the films of Powell and Pressburger is the documentary anchor of this current retrospect. As executive producer of the doc and personal protector of your husband's filmmaking legacy, what do you hope modern audiences understand about that legendary filmmaking team?
Well, I think, the decision by David Hinton, the wonderful director, who actually had made a beautiful film when my husband was still alive, and my husband and he co-directed it. And it was made for the South Bank show. And so we knew he was the right person. And his decision in the beginning was, I don't want a bunch of talking heads. I want one person, Martin Scorsese. And I think it's Marty's incredible passion and ability to, he speaks about films in a way that nobody else does, that is affecting people. We're getting incredible reviews and wonderful responses to this documentary, thankfully. And I think it's a great deal of it has to do with Marty.
Yeah, and I gave it 5 out of 5. So
Oh, thank you.
it's so perfect. It's so perfect, and I love their films. So
Yeah.
since you got to know your husband on a personal level, what in his personality was the key to his artistic integrity and point of view that looked at the world so vividly and was able to interpret it so directly into his art?
Yeah. Well, my husband asked me to put on his gravestone, film director and optimist. And he was. And I think that's part of why the films are so wonderful. They're about human beings all over the world. He thought we should be making films for the world, not for Britain. He was quite emphatic about that. And he thought that when the silent film, we lost the silent film, you could send a film to Japan, they would just take out the English cards, put in Japanese cards, and it was the same film. But now today, we have to deal with dubbing by an actor who, how are you going to redo Robert De Niro's performance, in Portuguese? And so it's then films became national, and he wanted to make films for humanity. He loved life. I can't tell you what it was like to live with him. Every day, he made something out of every day from the minute his eyes opened, and it was wonderful to live with him. I think he felt that film was his religion, and if you came on his set without feeling that way, you were in big trouble. So I think that his vision was so strong, particularly once he met the wonderful partner in Emmerich, because he had suffered from writing that was not for film, he felt writers were writing for books and articles, not for film, and Emmerich was writing for film. So that magical combination, and who really knows how a collaboration works? How does, De Niro and Scorsese, how does that work? I mean, it's mysterious and it should be. So I just think his great love of life, his daring, very, very daring. And when Peeping Tom occurred, he never backed off that film. He felt it
Right.
was important. He believed in it. And what he said was that if you're way ahead of your time and you're out on a limb, you can easily be cut off. But I'd rather be cut off than be conventional. And
Awesome.
so that was the reason that the films are so, you never, and Marty says you never know what's going to happen next in the films. They're constantly challenging you to engage and make up your mind about what you're feeling there. And so young people are pouring into these retrospectives, which is so heartening. I never saw that before. When I used to do things that would be film historians. This time I look out at the audience and it's half or more young people. And at the Museum of Modern Art in New York, they said they were very sad when it ended. They had never had a retrospective which was so beautifully attended that they had to turn people away because they didn't have
Oh,
enough room, that people were applauding after each film, that the feeling in the audience was so incredible. And they were sad that it was over. And but everywhere I have gone around the world, young people are coming. They're looking for something and they're finding it here.
well, my personal connection to Peeping Tom is it came out in the UK the day I was born. So you could do the math.
Great.
Um, when you and Powell met, you were both practiced in the language of film and cinema. What connected you most profoundly as filmmakers, despite working in different generations of the medium? And opposite to that, what did you most disagree on as far as the topic of film creation?
You know, the funny thing is that it was Scorsese's great relationship with Michael, this intense friendship that meant so much to the both of them, particularly to Marty. That was what created our getting together. You know, Marty said to me at one point, we were cutting Raging Bull, and he said, "Would you like to meet Michael Powell? Because I know you love his films." So that was the beginning. Um, but you know, we didn't discuss film editing that much, or he knew I loved his films, and he would talk about certain things about them. He loved Mean Streets. He thought Mean Streets, after Marty found him, and he said, "I want to see one of your films." And so Marty showed him Mean Streets, and Michael thought Mean Streets was a masterpiece. So he walked down the streets of New York with me. He would sometimes stop and say, "Why isn't Mean Streets being shown somewhere in New York every day?" And I couldn't answer that. But we didn't really talk about how Marty and I edited. And he wasn't used to a director being in the editing room, because he said he never went in the editing room, which isn't really true. But they only shot one take. One take. Can you imagine? You take something like Blimp and you look at the way Roger and Deborah, who's only 23 years old, one take. So if you're an editor, editing two takes instead of 4 or 5 of each, where the director likes to be around and be part of that choice, you know, some directors. So he never could understand why Marty was in the editing room. But I understood very much because you know, he taught me everything I know, and our collaboration was heaven. So and always has been 50 years. So
Beautiful. Since this is a retrospect that some may be seeing for the first time these films, which one would you recommend and why, given your intimacy with the filmography and the filmmaker?
well, I think if you want to seduce people, I think I Know Where I'm Going would probably be a good bet. Maybe some people will resent the fact that it's in black and white, but that will vanish right away, I think.
Ah,
But and then introduce them to things like Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, my favorite, The Red Shoes, and my husband's favorite, which is A Matter of Life and Death, because
ah.
he could be a magician. He always loved the idea of, he learned that from Rex Ingram, who was fascinated by magic, and he was able to just forget about all the rules of filmmaking and do a magnificent film based on his gut instincts, you know, and his passion. And so I think I would go that way because, you know, I Know Where I'm Going is so, everybody loves that movie. So that would start that way. But film professors tell me a lot of their students don't want to look at black and white.
That's sad.
Films were made for 85 years and there are fantastic masterpieces in them. How can you say that? But
You know, I always run into even big film buffs who say, I can't do subtitles. And I'm like, okay, then you're leaving out a lot of films.
filmmakers,
Yeah.
oh my God, just in Italy alone, when you know, from on, oh my God.
So, was the split between Powell and Pressburger more of a business problem or an artistic one, in your knowledge or opinion? And
I,
what bond between the men could never be split, even as they are not physically working together?
I think what happened was, as I said, that Michael was so loved Emmerich so much because of the fact that he was writing for film. But at a certain point, once Rank hated the Red Shoes and tried to kill it, it was only saved by Americans, and it became a worldwide hit. But then Korda was ripping them off he had bought a lot of books and he wanted those books sold to a company so that he could get the money to make the movie. And Michael got more and more unhappy with the book thing, even though they made wonderful movies from them. And Emmerich less so. And Emmerich, being a fellow Hungarian, he was very loyal to Korda. And gradually, Emmerich's original ideas were no longer there. And more, it was, he was agreeing to make films based on these books. And so gradually their attitudes about film started to diverge rather dramatically. For example, Michael wanted to make a movie starring Orson Welles, written by Dylan Thomas, music by Stravinsky, and sets by Matisse. Well, you can imagine Emmerich went, oh my God, how the hell are we going to sell this idea? And they didn't.
Yeah.
And so I think they were just going, Michael wanted to be more experimental, more, more artistic, and Emmerich was concerned about the actual cost of making movies, and the British film industry was dying because America
Yeah.
take their, it was a very bad time. And so that, but as Michael says in the documentary, it was never, they still loved each other and they were still very good friends, but it was just different ideas.
Right.
And
Cool.
Michael came up with, during the 20 years of oblivion, after their films had been thrown on the trash heap, and Marty and other people were finally bringing them back, Michael wrote in those 20 years 100 ideas for films that he couldn't sell. It's incredible. He never gave up. And
I'm
young
so
people
glad.
have told me after they've been to an event how inspiring that is to them, that he never gave up. Because as we know, it's hard to sell films. It's very hard. And so they've probably been trying, right? And the fact that he never gave up, he never gave up on Peeping Tom. And I think that is miraculous.
It came around to be one of the great masterpieces of cinema. So, um, your path to Academy Award-winning film editor was not the usual path, as well known. Since your early studies were in political science and diplomacy, how does that thought process contribute to the thought process of an editor?
Well, I think, there are a lot of dramatic personalities in film among directors and actors. And I learned very quickly, and it wasn't a problem for me, to understand that and work with it, not to resist it or get upset or just find ways to work with it. And that, so some people say, well, you are a diplomat now. Um, but that has to deal with lots of people in the business, and that's one of the great things about the business. That's what's so exciting about it, is that you meet these incredible artists. And I'm so lucky to have been around them all because of the director I work for. And I don't think many people have ever had so much opportunity to work on great films for such a long period of time, and to have had the best husband in the world, thanks to Marty. So I've had it all. And I feel bad about it sometimes. I think probably some editors would like to shoot me or so they could get my job, because I've just had it all. I'm so lucky. I'm so, so lucky. And
That's brilliant.
living with an optimist is an experience everyone should have.
Well, also your attitude of gratitude will always serve you, always.
I've got so much to be thankful for. Imagine
Yes.
I never met Marty. I mean, and it was all an accident.
Well,
It's
that's
too
that's
long to tell the story here, but it was really an accident that I met him. I took a little 6 weeks course at NYU. It's all I could afford after I'd left some other jobs I was unhappy with. And I had no idea I was going to meet him. I didn't know how great he was going to be. He was a student. And the professor said, can someone help him? Someone's ruined his film. Can someone help him put it back together? And I said, I'll try. And that, now, if someone hadn't ruined the film, I would be I would never have had this. And she called me recently and said, I'm the person who did it. I'm sorry.
uh,
And I said, don't be sorry. You gave me the greatest job in the world.
what is your opinion about destiny when something like that happens? That was my question about.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's great about working with Marty is that sometimes an accident will happen on the set or in the editing room.
Hmm.
We'll put together two shots that we never thought of putting together, and something will happen. And so we love accident, but the reason that Michael and Marty are such great directors is that they plan things very, very carefully before they start to shoot. Doesn't mean they don't adapt to what they're finding there. But accident is fun sometimes. I mean, really, Are You Talking to Me was an accident. I mean, Bob actually asked Marty that, and then they decided to develop it. So that kind of thing is wonderful to find. But the great thing about working for Scorsese is he's just so damn good. And I get each film is a different challenge. I have to learn new ways and discover things with him, and it's just the best job in the world. So,
As a political activist and philosopher in the 1960s, what was the consensus regarding the editing team's approach to all that random Woodstock footage to create the masterpiece of music and now history? What do you remember about the approach the team took to the project?
Up with 50, well, I think we had more than, I think we had 15 people out in the field, and then we had 6 people on the stage. Michael Wadley, the director, was the one who was giving us the best footage. For 3 days, with hardly any sleep at all, maybe an hour or two, and no food, he just shot looking down up that lens at the Who and whoever. And I was terrified. I was just trying to keep filming the cameras and deal with the cameramen and all. And we had no place to sleep. We were sleeping on the ground with ticks and no food. It was just horrendous. So I was frankly very worried. But when we started screening, and sometimes we would screen with 6 projectors, so we had 6 images on, and we said, oh, I see, we got something very special. But I was terrified, frankly.
Finally, what can you tell me about Martin Scorsese and Michael Powell that the rest of the world doesn't know?
Well, I think the documentary is showing something people didn't know, how important they were to each other. And I think they shared things when Marty was looking at $1 Million Movie, things were clicking with him because of how he had grown up. No heroes, no villains, something in between, and fascination with characters who are both inspiring, like Lermontov in the Red Shoes, and cruel for reasons that he can't control. I think that they had that similar idea, both of them. And Marty, even before he met Michael, was responding to that. When he saw that arrow go into the target, he knew that was going to be a special film that would challenge him and teach him. And but I don't know if that people don't know about that. I think the love between them is something that people don't know about, which I think the documentary is laying down. I hope, anyway.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.